Welcome to the Boschcast with James Boschman and Denise Young, where we talk about Manitoba real estate and everything else that's on our minds. And we're live. What's going on, everyone? How are you, Denise?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Kind of missed a week of podcast because of my cast.
Yeah.
So,
you're with a blue one now.
Yeah, I got a blue one. I upgraded. Started as bright pink, and I thought that was really cool. I like the bright pink, but they didn't have bright pink this time around. So got the Connection Homes blue, as I like to call it.
That's cool. It looks super uncomfortable the way they have your thumb.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's like all crooked, like yeah.
Oh my gosh.
By the time my hand's out of this thing, my thumb's gonna be all like all gibbled. But yeah, and this one, it's got a little bit more room inside of it, so it doesn't smell as bad as the other one.
Oh, good.
The other one, like, oh my God, Tara and I would like have dinner with her parents or like go out for dinner, and I was so embarrassed to I'd like keep it behind the chair, like under the table, because the minute that it's in view of people, that smell is just wafting. Definitely there was some kind of like fungus growing in there. And then I was trying to find ideas of how I could air it out, because it was so tight it would get sweaty and then like start smelling. And people are saying, oh, use a hair dryer. So I use a hair dryer and just put it on the cold setting. Yeah. But then it really stirred up all the stink, and it was just like blowing everywhere.
Yeah, you should like shove a bunch of Gold Bond powder in there.
Yeah. feed the fungus with something. Yeah. Oh, it's kind of fitting because our mushroom operation is kind of up and going, so I'm like, I could be like a walking grow appendage. Yeah. Have like turkey tail mushrooms growing out of here. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, I got some jokes for you today. Some exciting dad jokes. Yeah. I love dad jokes. So first one is, did you know that the Tesla founder Elon Musk is originally from South Africa?
No.
Yeah, so he's from South Africa, which is kind of strange. You'd think that he was from Mad at Gas Car. Oh God. And then a fitting follow-up joke to that is, you think gas prices are expensive? Have you seen chimneys? They're through the roof.
Oh, jeez.
It's a good tie-in to real estate, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking, that's a good housing joke at least.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not good, but
yeah. I love cringy, cheesy dad jokes. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in again to episode 8 of the Boschcast, and excited to talk about a few things on this episode. If anybody out there listening has any real estate related questions you'd like us to answer on the podcast, if you have any topics for us, feel free to hit us up. You can shoot us a DM or text or call us anytime. I'd be more than happy to talk about this stuff on the podcast and answer any questions that people may have, whether it's real estate related or otherwise. So, but maybe let's talk about it. What's going on in the market? What's shaking? What's moving?
Well, we're starting to hear that there's quite a few multiple offers happening again.
Definitely. Yeah, didn't expect that for sure.
Yeah.
But I guess with low interest rates, no, sorry, the low inventory,
There you go.
the low inventory. And I mean, realistically, interest rates are
They're not bad.
lower. They're not bad. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's two things that are kind of driving that. Well, maybe three things. Low inventory is one. So it's a supply and demand, principles of supply and demand. If you have more demand, less supply, it creates, multiple offer situation, especially in the real estate market.
Yeah.
And then I think there's two things happening right now with respect to the buyers out there, what I'm seeing. So I'm getting some phone calls now from people who have actually gotten their pre-approvals, and they're entering the market for the first time with zero idea of what we went through in the last 2 years.
Right.
So like they're not super offended or butthurt by like, once upon a time having a 2% 5-year fixed rate and now a 5% fixed rate, and they're like,
right.
Super upset about that.
They haven't lost a bunch of their amount that they were approved for.
Right. So they're, generally first-time buyers getting into the market, and they're just excited to get a place. So there are those like new buyers that are entering the market now. We're technically in the start of the spring market, and so we're going to naturally see a lot of action. Even in a balanced market, our market is usually pretty crazy in the springtime. Lots of activity. And then the other thing I'm seeing is people, like maybe they were sitting on the sidelines, or maybe they chose to like sit and wait it out because they weren't sure what was going to happen with interest rates and the market in general.
Or they got sick of competing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like, now the interest rates are going up a bit. Let's just like take a back seat to this.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people that owned real estate already or were renting, and so they're it's not like they're going to be homeless. They're not in a huge rush. But I feel a lot of those people are realizing now that things are not going to go back to the way things were. Like we're not going to see 2% fixed rates ever again. 3% fixed rates for a long, long time. So I think they're coming to the realization that's like, well, it's kind of a wash. You may not get 100K over for your house in multiple offers, but you're also probably not going to have to pay that on the buying end. Right. Although we are seeing multiple offers right now.
Yes, I don't feel like they're as crazy as they were last year, and
no.
And it's not on every house.
Right.
Like
I think it's just an inventory thing. Like if we had more inventory, which we might.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're bound to see that in the next month.
Right.
More inventory, just naturally people,
that's why balance. Sellers should try to get on the market now.
Yeah, there's a great window right now, I feel. Yeah. But yeah, like I think I mentioned in a previous episode, everybody is waiting for the sky to fall and like the bottom of the market. And I think that the bottom of our market has happened already in January, maybe December, January.
Yeah, I agree.
And now, unfortunately, a lot of those people who chose not to buy, there's going to be more competition now, and just the way it is. So, but yeah, so I had a listing in Windsor Park that got 9 or 10 offers on it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like we underbucked it significantly.
No.
My client,
I think we priced it well considering it didn't have a garage.
Yeah.
Right? And there hasn't been a lot in that area that doesn't have a garage. So you have to take that into consideration when pricing it. You can't price it with the same as a place with a garage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you take that into consideration, the lack of the market, people were like, I guess we're just going to buy a house without a garage.
Yeah. I think another thing too is, with the higher qualifying rate, like as the fixed rates are higher, you have to qualify at a much higher stress test. I think that's going to result in a huge, huge push for affordability in our market. Like, we already live in a fairly affordable real estate market, just in general. But I think that like 400 and under market is going to be, if you got a listing in that price range and it's a good property, solid, good bones, great layout, functional, great area, you're going to do really, really well, regardless of what the rates are, because
exactly,
you're going to have a lot of people that, like I said, are entering the market for the first time, or maybe they've just come to terms with the fact that, they can't qualify for 500K anymore, still need to buy a house or still want to buy a house for whatever reason. And they just have to accept kind of a lower pre-approval amount. And I think it's going to put more emphasis on that lower price range. I know, like, anecdotally, because I work with a lot of builders and new home construction, I'm getting a lot of calls now from other realtors saying, we've got buyers that need to be in, 350 and under for a new home.
Yeah.
And if I had 100 listings, I'd probably sell them all relatively quickly if they were all under 350.
Yeah.
Within like 20 to 30 minutes outside of the city even. But there is a little bit of work that has to be done in order to, get houses built for under 350. Like, the lot prices have to, I feel, be reflective of the current status of the market. So, and then, to help get that price point down to that 350 range. And a lot of these new developments, they're so restrictive when it comes to architectural guidelines.
Yeah.
And limited on square footage. Like, they won't allow houses to be built under a certain size or whatever. And that kind of limits like what can be done even from a builder's perspective. So, but if we had a lot of listings under 350, man, we'd be absolutely flying, I think.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I totally agree. It would be nice if some of the developers would change things a little to allow that.
Yeah. But bidding wars are back. It definitely feels like a bounce back. A lot of that, I think, is spring market just in general. But there is a term that people use in like in the market in finance industry. It's called the dead cat bounce. It's not really like, I don't like that term, but what it refers to is everybody thinks that the market is bouncing back and it's like rebounding and it's going to be super hot, but it's just like a very short-lived kind of cycle that happens. Pent-up demand, low inventory. So I think it's going to be relatively short-lived.
I think so too. Like, we're seeing the multiple offers, but it's not on every house. Like, we were able to pick up, I was able to write offers on a few houses this past week that didn't have other offers. Yeah. A year ago, that wasn't happening at all.
Right.
Right. Everything I wrote was in multiple offers last year. It didn't matter what it was. Yeah. But right now I feel like there's a good amount of both. Yeah. Special houses, of course, are always going to go into multiple offers. I had one this past week I wrote on with, it was a half acre inside the city. That everyone's going to want that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, of course, that one had multiple offers. But, the average other house that's being, marketed fairly in an area where there is other listings happening, probably is going to take a little longer to sell.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's going to be like a month or two, right? Like when I say longer, I mean like, maybe 10 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if it's priced well.
Yeah.
And if it's priced well and people can,
and
see the value.
Yeah. And I'll say staged well, but maybe not staged, but you know what I mean? Like decluttered and
yeah.
and
it's not a smell.
Well.
It's not a smelly house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's this is going to be a really interesting week. So today, as of the time of this video, it's Monday, March 6th. People will probably be seeing this on tomorrow, March 7th, Tuesday. March 8th, Wednesday, is the Bank of Canada's announcement. Their like pre-scheduled rate hike announcement. There's a lot of speculation in, like, when I say speculation, it's not like from, realtors are speculating, obviously, but it's like economists and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Reuters poll that was done on March 3rd, so last week, where they had polled a number of economists who are pretty big names in the Canadian market, and it was pretty divided. I think it was like 19 people or something like that, 19 economists. It was out of 40, so it was like 19 out of 40 thought that they were going to not raise rates, not raise again on Wednesday. Okay. And then the rest of them thought that they might go 25 basis point hike.
Interesting.
I think I'm in the not raise camp.
Yeah.
I think that, it's an optics thing. I also think that our economy, even though we do piggyback on what happens in the US, just, because we're their cousin to the north or whatever, and we do a lot of trade with them. I think that we have a much different economy here, much different needs as a country when it comes to import export. Our jobs are different. We're like, from province to province, we're much more spread out than the US, and we have like our two major hubs in Canada that our central bank seems to watchdog over more so than in the States. They have a lot of these large cities, right, that in different states that seem to move the needle when it comes to their housing market. There's obviously a lot more going on in the States. So I think that Tiff Macklem's going to come out on Wednesday and say we are continuing the pause. We're not going to be raising rates. I actually think that they're going to continue the pause until 2024. If I'm going to make a prediction, and I
just don't believe he's going to raise rates so soon after he said he wasn't going to raise rates.
Right. It's just funny.
He just said that.
Yeah.
So he can't the very next time decide to raise rates and make himself look like a complete jackass, even though he has a million times. But
yeah. It's just funny because, like, the last time when they came out and they said we're going to pause.
Yeah.
A couple days after the jobs data came out, which was like 3 times the amount of jobs that were produced in January than what they thought. And so a lot of people said, oh man, if you had that jobs data by the time you had made that announcement to pause, would you have paused? Probably not. You probably would have raised.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, what has people speculating that that they may raise again.
Okay.
The other thing is the piggybacking on the states. The states, chairman of the Fed Jerome Powell, has come out saying they will do whatever they have to do. Markets are pricing in 3 to 4 more rate hikes before the end of the year. They're very, very hawkish. Like, the rhetoric out of the US is like, we're going to keep cranking this thing up, pushing it as far as we can until something breaks. So if we don't do that, like if we don't follow what the US does, what's going to happen is we're going to have a case of, they call it the case of the limping loonie. So our loonie is going to limp behind, like our dollar is going to fall.
Yeah.
And, which just means like it's going to be more expensive. We want to go to the States, this year. It's going to be way more expensive to do so. Just anecdotally, like going for holidays and stuff like that, it's going to be way more expensive. So, which kind of sucks because Tara and I, we like going to Hawaii, and we probably, if our dollar is in the shitter, then we might not go again. But who knows? Maybe we still will. But
I get it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think Tiff Macklem, from his point of view, he's looking at different things. He's looking at the global supply chain. The global supply chain has definitely ironing itself out. And, that is a big contributing factor to the reason why we have inflation the way where we have it. Right. I mean, also doesn't help that they just printed 30% more currency and distributed into our economy. I mean, that's the biggest reason why we are where we are. But supply chains are ironing themselves out now. And then just, the 425 basis point hike that they created over the last year, through however many rate hikes, like 9 rate hikes, that is starting to really take hold now. And their GDP numbers are lower than, the data is a lot better than what they thought, and the economy is slowing at a much faster pace, and excessive consumer spending is starting to be curbed now, and excessive business investment is starting to be curbed now. Like, people are kind of taking a back seat. Well, should we invest in that? Should we spend money on this?
Right.
Should we go on this? Like, just from a general consumer point of view, like, should we really take that trip now? Should we really buy that second vehicle? Should we really, buy that cottage now?
Right.
And it takes like, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people to have the same idea. It's going to slow our economy very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Things happen a lot faster than what people think. The problem is that the Bank of Canada uses lagging data. They don't, they can't, they're not boots on the ground like we are, trading in the real estate market. So they rely on all of the data generated from consumers and people in the service industries, and all that data to be collected before they make a decision.
Right.
So yeah, my guess, my prediction is they continue to hold on Wednesday, and then a longer prediction would be they continue to hold for the rest of the year. I think by the end of the year, inflation will probably come down to that 4% range. It's at 5.9, I think, right now. 4%, maybe even 3% by the end of the year. And then, if something doesn't break, then 2% next year.
Okay.
And then we'll probably see our interest rates come down next year. But again, when that happens, we're going to be right back into that crazy time again. Real estate market is going to be absolutely ripping. The minute that they announce that they are decreasing their overnight rates, and like, we can see the forest through the trees, and it's like, okay, there's no more, inflation is not a factor. By that time, we're going to have like over 500,000 new permanent residents in Canada. They're going to need a place to live. We're not going to have the inventory that we need to house them. Not including people wanting to get off the fence when interest rates go down, because it increases their buying power. They can get pre-approved for more. It's, if not this year, next year is going to be absolutely insane. That's my prediction, but
right on.
Been wrong before, so it's fun to make predictions, but
it is, yeah.
So yeah. So I've got a cool story for you.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about telling this one for a while now, but I wasn't sure when, but I think today is my opportunity.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. So it's a story about lost, stolen, and recovered art. And it's like such a crazy story. So basically it starts years and years ago. I can't even remember how long ago now, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I got a call to list these people's house in South Osborne.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they needed to sell it was a smaller home, and they were having more kids, and they needed to sell it and then upsize to something else. So they really wanted to stay in the area, but there wasn't really anything large square footage in South Osborne that was coming up for sale. And we did one of those where we listed their house first, we sold it first, and then went house shopping after.
Right, yeah.
Because they really wanted to know what they could ultimately, what they were looking at.
What could they spend? Yeah.
So anyways, we couldn't find anything in South Osborne for them that fit their needs. So they ended up expanding their search, and they bought a house in River Heights.
Yeah.
So, not to gas myself up too much, but I did a really good job for them, and they were super happy. They ended up referring me to their parents. Their parents had a big, beautiful 2-story home in St. Vital, very close to St. Vital Park. And
Mm-hmm.
they were in a position where they needed to downsize because they were empty nesting. And they just moved into like a 55 plus apartment building or something like that. So they had a lot of stuff that they were going through, decluttering, getting the house listed for sale, ended up selling their house. And I remember when I was there doing the photos and just like in general, doing the walkthrough with them.
Yeah.
They had a lot of art on their walls. And one of these pieces was like a hand painted canvas. And it was a figure of a guy who was in like a business suit. And he was bending over on a chair, and he had his hands on his head. And it was such a visceral painting. I remember I was like, oh man, I kind of resonate with that painting. And I couldn't, it was one of those pieces of art where you're just like, it kind of sticks with you, and it kind of tells such a visceral story. And as it turned out, their other son was the artist. He was the one who painted it, and it was for a project for art school.
Mm-hmm.
And they liked it so much that they put it up in their house. And he ended up moving away somewhere, the son. And he was still, I guess, doing art or whatever. But so anyways, sold their house. They moved into their 55 plus apartment, and they didn't have enough room at the time to store all of this art that they had and all of these other items in their home.
Mm-hmm.
So their son and their other son and the daughter that I sold the house to in River Heights, they had a big 2-story home with a back lane and had a garage. But they got a moving trailer. And so I guess they were helping their parents as well with moving stuff out of their place. And they said, store a bunch of your stuff, like art and all that kind of stuff, in our moving trailer. And then when you're all settled in, we'll figure out what to do with all this stuff, right? So the trailer was parked behind the house in River Heights, behind the kids' house that I sold to the kids. And I guess all the art was in there. And I'd found out that somebody stole the trailer.
Oh my gosh.
So like all the art was gone, and they had a bunch of stuff in there that was stolen. People just like loaded up the trailer and took off and filed a police report, and like, you know, police were searching for it, but I don't think they ever found it. Fast forward to a few years ago, pre-COVID, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, working for a builder, and I had a new build house that was for sale in the town of Garson, Manitoba, which is like by Tyndall, Manitoba. Right. And got a call from these guys. They were interested in building this house. They already had their home on the market with another realtor. Their home was located in the Winnipeg Beach, well, north of Winnipeg Beach, but like in the bush. Yeah. And they had this giant acreage and beautiful treed property. So they wanted to deal with me directly on the purchase of this new build, which required me to go to their place and meet with them to write the contract. So I showed up at their house, like, you know, they gave me directions and all that kind of stuff. I showed up there and I walked in, and it was one of these houses where the main level was a garage, a giant double or triple attached garage. And then they had like a gym in the back. And then the second floor was the kitchen, living room, dining room. They had an office, bathroom. And then the third floor was where all the bedrooms were, with a balcony. Oh, wow. And beautiful, like looked like a tree house in the forest. Like it was just stunning. Yeah. And so these guys are showing me around and showing me their place and everything. And it was listed with another realtor. So like I couldn't really, couldn't really talk to them too much about it. But I remember they had every square inch of their house was covered in art, like covered. And they're showing me, they're taking me on a tour of their place, and they had custom built this house and everything. Super proud of it. And we go into this one room, and I see this painting. And I was like, where have I seen this before? And I was like, just in shock, standing in front of this thing. And when I say painting, like, it wasn't like a tiny little canvas like this one behind.
Right. Yeah.
It was like a life-size one.
Okay.
And I was like, guys, where did you get this from? This looks so familiar to me. And I just can't put my finger on it. Like, I have definitely seen this before. And they said, oh, really? Well, that's interesting. Like, if you know who painted it, we would love to know who the artist was, because we love it as well. I was like, well, I think I know, but it's not coming to my mind right now. But, I'll think about it a little bit more. But I've definitely seen this before. And then I asked them, where did you guys buy this from? And then they said they bought it from an antique store on North Main, kind of in the West St. Paul area. Mm-hmm. And there was like a pop-up tent art sale. And they were driving out one day, and they stopped in and bought a whole bunch of art from the same sale for like a set price. And they're like, yeah, we got it for a deal. And unknown artists, but like really cool paintings. And then it clicked. I was like, oh my God, I think I know. Oh my God, I think I know who the artist is. And I think I know what happened. Then I explained it, like all came rushing back.
Yeah.
And I explained to them about my past clients and the stolen art. And they're just like, oh my God. And they couldn't believe it. And I was like, let me get you in touch. Like, I'm so sorry for even bringing this up. Like, I feel so bad. Mm-hmm. Because like after I brought up that story, they were like, well, obviously we can't keep the art now. Like, we got to you have to return it to the rightful owner.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, guys, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I know how much you love this painting and like whatever. And like, my intention was never to come to your house randomly and like, you know, have you give all your art back, you know, but that's what ended up happening. So I got them in touch with my past clients.
Yeah.
And they ended up returning some of it and keeping some of it. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but
they worked it out between them.
They worked it all out, and everybody was super pumped. And
wow,
I'm like, oh my God, like, what a freaking small world.
A small world. And they all have a fun story to tell.
Yeah. But like, yeah, they say like, you know, Winnipeg is a small world, or like, you know, 6 degrees of separation or whatever. I think in Manitoba, it's more like 1 degree of separation.
Yeah.
2 degrees of separation.
1 to 2 at the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is insane.
Yeah.
But that story will definitely.
Chances that you're the one that went to their house, right?
I know. Yeah. But I guess when you're active in the industry, you see a lot of stuff, and I definitely see a lot of stuff. So
for sure.
But yeah, no, that was just, it was really cool. And I remember I told Tara that, and told her mom. Her mom was like, oh my God, you need to write a book about all your stories and everything. So that's the idea behind this like section of the podcast. We can share crazy stories.
Yeah.
You know, and at least they're not stuck in our minds and us forgetting about them over the years. So
right.
They'll be recorded and remembered.
Yeah, for sure.
So that concludes my story. Maybe we'll get into our topic of the week, which is, you know, going back to our initial conversation about what's going on in the market, and the market being kind of, you know, bouncing back a little bit here, and us getting into multiple offers. We should talk about multiple offer protocols, what to expect, not only as a buyer when it comes to multiple offers, and how to prepare yourself for them, but also as a seller, what you should kind of prepare yourself for. And I can kind of speak to the selling side of it just anecdotally, you know, with that listing that I sold last week.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to?
Sure.
Maybe we'll take
talk about the buyer side.
Yeah.
Well, as a buyer, I mean, sometimes we can tell it's going to go into multiple offers before offer date, and sometimes we can't. Mm-hmm. But often you can tell at the open house, or maybe by the number of cards that are sitting on the counter, or how mm-hmm. hard it is to get an appointment.
Yeah.
So sometimes, there are signs ahead of time, and sometimes there aren't. Sometimes you think that there's no other interest, and when you go to write an offer, even after offer date, all of a sudden there's more than one offer. And when there's more than one, you're in multiples.
Yeah. So
I always tell my clients, you know, you don't know what the listing agent's going to decide to do. Like if they're going to or it's not always up to the listing agent either. It's right. The seller. Are they going to, you know, give you another chance or not? And what's their motivation of giving you another chance over someone else? Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I recently had a client who, you know, we were writing in multiples, and they're like, okay, well, let's write this, and then hopefully they'll give us another chance if we're not there. And I'm like, well, why would they though?
Yeah.
Right. What would be the reason they would give you that chance instead of someone who's higher? Right. Why wouldn't they just take the higher one?
Yeah.
And so you have to think about it from the seller's point of view often, right? Like, mm-hmm. And they can't counter you. When they counter you, they're voiding all those other offers.
Right.
You know, at best, if there's two offers that they're having a hard time deciding between, because maybe they really like this possession date, but really like this price, or maybe the offers are exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, the best they can do is call you and say, are you willing to make any changes? And they can't give you any direction.
Yeah.
So that's all they can do. They can't say you're second, you're third. They can't say anything, right? Like they're definitely not supposed to say that.
Yeah, it's definitely been some agents in the past few years that have done that, and it has not.
Well, we heard of one last year in the news. Last year or the year before, I don't remember.
It always goes on the news. That's why you never do that shit. Like, you can't do that shit.
No, but I always tell my clients, if you really want this house, put the number that you're not going to regret having missed the house by, right? Like,
right.
If you're willing to pay $550 and you'll regret hearing that it's sold for $550, then put $550.
Yeah, I always say, like, which is so true. I always say, if we're writing this offer and they're presenting offers tonight, and you wake up tomorrow and you find that the house sold for $5,000 more than what you were willing to offer, $10,000 more, and like just go up the chain of like increments of numbers, and then you'll be able to, your gut will tell you, how you feel. If you lost it by $5,000, would you feel sick? Oh yeah, I would definitely feel sick. Okay. If you lost it by $10,000, would you feel sick? No, I wouldn't feel sick. I would let them have it for $10,000 over.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like, you got to figure out how much, like you said, like how much will you regret it if you find out what the sold price is the next day. Because value is so like,
subjective sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely in the eye of the beholder, right? It's not just about like, okay, well, what did the comps show, or like, what did that house sell for? It's at the end of the day, it's an investment, but it's still.
But sometimes it's also about convenience and everything else. So like, I had a client many moons ago who decided that they were willing to pay more than what I was suggesting the house was worth, because it was the perfect location for their kids to be able to go back and forth between mom and dad. Far enough away that they couldn't see each other's houses, but close enough that the kids could walk. So they're like, how often is a house in that location going to come up again? So they were willing to go $20,000 over what I suggested it was worth. And who knows how much they overpaid by? I have no idea. Maybe they didn't. Maybe someone else thought it was worth that too. Yeah. Right.
And that's the thing with multiple offers. It's essentially like a blind bid. So we don't know what the prices of the other offers are going to be ever.
And we never will.
Yeah. So it's, throwing darts at a dartboard with a blindfold on, but we do our job as buyers agents, to help prove the value based on comparable sales in the area, but then also help guide you through that market in general. If you're purchasing in an area that is always going to be super desirable for whatever reason, maybe it's the location in general, the proximity to schools or proximity to businesses, or, it's always going to be very desirable. And if it's a long-term play, you purchase it and you live in it for 10 plus years, if you pay $20,000 over list or $30,000 over market value or something like that, like chances are the market is going to more than catch up to that at that point, long before that 10 years is up. So
exactly,
value is always in the eye of the beholder. And if you see tremendous value outside of that specific house, with the location and stuff like that, then it's worth it. So.
And as people who also list houses, we also see that generally we don't have a ton of offers that are way higher than the others. Like they're usually all within a few grand, right? Like you might have a few that are way under what everyone is at, but usually there's at least a couple in the same range as each other. So like everyone's got the same idea of going 40,000 over. Maybe one or two people trying to get it close to list. Right. So I mean, it's rare that someone wins by a landslide, right?
It's rare that there's like a complete outlier. last couple of years, we definitely saw more of that, just because you had those people that had bid on 20 houses and they were sick and tired of losing. So they just, went nuts.
I don't know how other people do their presentations, but I have like a spreadsheet that had like when I have, especially if I have more than 3 offers, you put out, write down all the information about the offer so that I can go over the offers really easily with my clients so that it doesn't take, 4 hours to go through 10 offers. And then like, I always feel like the reason why it usually takes so long is because the sellers are having a hard time choosing between 2 offers, and that's usually a good indication of, these offers are so close together. Even last year, I mean, it was taking so long. I'm sure that it was more of a problem of guessing which are picking an offer to take, right? Because they were, even though they were 100,000 over, there was probably more than one that was 100,000 over.
Yeah, usually from when you're a listing agent and you're dealing with multiple offers, I mean, there is a protocol that we have to adhere to,
right?
When we present them. And usually what I like to do is, whether they are submitted from another agent and dropped off at a lockbox, so it's in a sealed envelope and can't open it and look at it until we actually get to the house, or if it's or if they're emailed to me. A lot of times now, it's everybody emails a PDF of the offer. Usually what I do is I compile all of the offers, and even if they're PDFs and they're being printed, I won't print them until I absolutely last minute.
Right.
And then I put them all in separate folders, and I have like these manillas.
Right.
And I'll usually put them in here or in like a big envelope. Each offer gets their own individual folder.
Yeah.
And then I will take pieces of paper and I'll paper clip them to the outside. And that way, when you pull the offer out and you're looking at it, we look at usually price, deposit, possession, conditions, other. And other could be, is there anything funky in there with the terms, with the promises? Inclusions, stuff that the purchasers want. And that way, everything is laid out. It's in front of you. And then you can make notes if another agent calls back and they say our clients would like to increase their offer to blah 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 in that time, then you're making notes so you have a clear record of everything.
Right. My spreadsheet has a spot for changes too.
Yeah, and it just makes life so much easier and makes things go a lot quicker. But yeah, you're right. Usually it's like, the offers are all relatively close, and usually
the top ones are fairly close. And as much as I will encourage a buyer who wants to write a letter, I will discourage a seller from reading it until after they've picked one. Right? Like, it depends on what side I'm on. When I'm working with that buyer, I want to give them every advantage. And if the 2 offers are the same and they're willing to read our letter, why not? Why not have that letter?
Tug at the old heartstrings.
Right, exactly. And but then on the other hand, I want my sellers to look at this as a business transaction for their family, do what's best for their family. And I will only open that letter after they've picked someone, or again, if 2 are exactly the same and they can't pick between them, then let's look at their letters.
What if you opened a letter after accepting an offer and it was like, our goal is to purchase this property to use it as a sex cult. And
I might not give it to the seller to read it, because I'm pretty sure, like, usually they're not in a separate sealed envelope. So I've usually read the letter already. It's usually not a surprise to me.
It's funny. No, I've definitely
although I guess it depends on your sellers, because I remember when we were at Royal LePage, we had a seller, I guess not a sex cult though, but it was a nudist colony. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I've had it where we've had sellers that have lived in their house for like 40 years, and they were and we had multiple offers. I think we had like 6 or 7 offers, and we're going through all of them, and not one of them had written a letter.
Oh yeah.
And before the sellers agreed to accept an offer, they wanted to know who the people were for the benefit of the neighbors, because they were so close with the neighbors that they wanted to guarantee it was going to be someone that they would like too. And which is kind of like,
even if you find some stuff out about them doesn't mean they're gonna like them.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so they were very selective. So we had two offers that were definitely top contenders, and phoned both agents and said, hey, I got you on speakerphone. Tell me about your clients. Tell me about the buyers. What kind of people are they? What do they do?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that your offer is accepted. I'm saying that we're considering it, but it's very important for the sellers that they find a good fit for the neighbors. And then they, generally ask, what are the neighbors like? And so you start a conversation. It's not a common practice, but it's definitely something that I've seen.
Right.
So yeah,
fine as long as it doesn't get into racist territory.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I think we saw a newspaper article recently about one that was trying to limit it to, I don't even remember what race, but like it was actually like, I don't even remember, but it was very specific of who should be allowed to live there or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to prepare for multiple offers, go in with the idea that you're putting your best foot forward. We will help guide you as realtors to make sure that you're going to make a good decision. Think about what your goal is with that property.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a 1 year and then you're moving again, or is it you're going to live there for 10 years? Or I know life always happens and it's hard to predict, but it is important when you're going into multiple offers. That way, if you can kind of justify if you need to go a little bit higher than what you were originally thinking.
And is this
from
property
an investment point of view
somehow unique to all the other properties that are going to come up on the market?
Right. Yeah.
Like that half acre in the city, that's very unique to the market inside the city, right? Like it's not super common. But when you're looking at, bungalows in Transcona, right? Like there's going to be more. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always going to be more fish in the sea. So, but yeah, we can help guide you on the appropriate offering price, based on our experience, and the process is essentially like a blind bid process. And what I like to do is when I'm on the buying side, I like to contact the listing agent and ask them, I just say, hey, introduce myself. And when I finally let them know that we are writing an offer on their listing, I will call them and say, hey, it's James. Just wanted to talk to you. I want to get an idea of like, how do you present offers? Because there's some agents out there that are just like, they're probably so busy that they don't have time to dilly-dally. So it's just like, let's open them all up and pick the best one.
Yeah.
They kind of dictate the show or whatever. And I don't really like that. I don't think that's super ethical, but getting an idea on who these agents are and how they present offers. And then listing agents have an obligation to not disclose information, but I like to try to find out as much information as possible, even if it's
what they'll tell you. It's my job to see if they'll tell me more than what they should.
Yeah, exactly. What's the motivation of the seller? Why are they selling?
Yeah.
Okay, great. They're relocating for work, or they're downsizing, or they're, whatever it is. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Like some agents will straight up tell you, and they shouldn't, but they do. And so it's like figuring out what their motivation is so that it can help position your offer in terms of what's more important to the seller. Is it higher price? Is it the cleanest offer possible in terms of, they're going to, because some agents will say, hey, most important factor for these people is they don't want to be on the hook for waiting around for the purchasers to get their financing. They just want to cleanest offer wins it,
Yeah.
So that's trying to do as much due diligence up front as possible. But then people are people at the end of the day. And I've also been on the receiving end of that, where the sellers tell me blatantly, this is what we are going to accept. This is our motivation. And then it gets to the
and then it changes.
And then it changes. And it's like, oh, so it's not about the highest price anymore. So, so that's, I mean, people are people. So,
yeah.
But yeah, trying to do as much digging and as much due diligence as possible is always important.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And who knows how long multiple offers will be around for. They're definitely common again right now on specific resale homes in specific areas. Typically the areas that are in really high demand, probably going back to the affordability again, but Windsor Park, Westwood, Crestview, some parts of Transcona,
Island Lakes has been hot.
Island Lakes, East Kildone, and River Park South, all the great family communities.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as we see inventory increase over the next couple months, just as weather warms up, we're probably going to see, we're either going to see more of it or we're going to see less of it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Might see less of it depending on how the inventory balances out the demand, but be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last but not least is we'll give some flowers to some local businesses. We'll shout out some local businesses, and I'll let you start, Denise.
Okay. I only have one this week.
Okay.
It's because I couldn't think of any.
Yeah, no problem.
I think I was really busy with work in the last 2 weeks and just really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And other than this past weekend, we went to Brandon. And while in Brandon, you must check out Chez Angela, which is an amazing bakery who on their social media also talks a lot and often about paying a living wage and they support a lot of the local businesses there. So a lot of their ingredients are local, and that's like stuff that's really important to them. And that kind of stuff is very important to me. So, besides loving their cookies, their salted caramel chocolate chip cookies, we love, their ethics, I guess. Yeah. So we do like to pop by and support them. And, when you are paying your staff a living wage as a bakery, your baking is probably a little bit more expensive than the average bakery, but I feel like it's important to support that. Mm-hmm. And, we're not in Brandon every week. So, so we load it up. We did load up a little bit. Yeah. And they were awesome to us because I didn't call until we were actually on our way to Brandon on Friday to see if they could hold some of these cookies I love. And they were able to throw it onto another order because typically their policy is to order 3 days ahead of time. Oh, yeah. But she did help me out. So that was awesome. And nice. So that's one of the things we always do in Brandon. Besides, we have a couple favorite trails to hike near there. And that downtown area is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Brandon is a pretty sick city. Haven't been there in a while, but they have an amazing brewery there. That I love.
They have a couple of good ones.
Yeah. Cool. My businesses of the week. So our dog Nova recently had a TPLO surgery, where they basically cut her bone, like her left rear leg bone, in half at the knee joint,
Mm.
and then put pins in it, put a plate in it, and like restructured everything. And it was pretty invasive surgery, and we needed a lot of different supplies, like a cone and like different things to keep her active and stuff like that. And we have gone to the Pet Value on Henderson a lot. Like that's where we get all of our stuff from, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner there, Jackie, she is super nice. She knows us by name, and like she's very friendly. And I was actually there this morning for a bit and chatted her up. And yeah, they're just so great. Like they recently expanded, and I think they either bought or they leased the unit next door to them.
Oh,
And they
okay.
like blew out the wall, and it's really huge. Like it's huge in there now.
Mm-hmm.
They have the grooming and like the dog. I think they have the dog washing in there, a bunch of stuff. But they're always stocked with everything. Great selection, great customer service. And then they have like cats running around, and they have like store cats in there that they've adopted, and they just live in the store.
Oh,
And,
wow.
they're super cute. And then she brings her dogs to work, and yeah, great spot. So if anybody's looking for pet stuff, I think the Pet Values are all franchises.
I was wondering about that because I'm like, oh, the one closer to us, like Sage Creek, just moved across the street to like into a bigger building. Yeah, because they were over by Blade and Block. But yeah, I do find like most of them though are very like, even though they're probably separately owned franchises, mm-hmm. I feel like they're run very similarly, right? Like they must be.
Yeah, we've gone to the one by our office here. Reinders, and they have some stuff, but it's not
as big as the Henderson one.
No, they're definitely lacking on especially like the cat food that we buy and stuff for Nobes. But Henderson always has everything, and even if they don't have something, if you go in there, they can order stuff for you too. So
that's awesome.
It's really great. So yeah, Pet Value Henderson. And then the second business is a local restaurant that Tara and I have been going to for years, and we support all the chef and owners restaurants throughout the years. Chef's name is Scott Bagshaw, and he used to own a restaurant called Deseo Bistro, which was like our favorite restaurant back in the day. He also owns Pissarro at the Forks and Make, which is like an Asian inspired restaurant in the Corydon area. But Enoteca restaurant, it's 1670 Corydon Avenue. It's like kind of down by the train tracks, like Centennial Beaverbrook area. And it's like at the end of the strip mall. It's like a really funky location. They've basically been there since the beginning. But it is absolutely phenomenal. It's all tapas style, so you order a whole bunch of dishes and you share them. Usually we go and we always ask, like, how many dishes would you recommend? And they're like, oh, for two of you, like 4. And we always get like 6 or 7. It's so hard to like
pick which ones.
Yeah, and then they always have a special too.
Yeah.
But yeah, our favorite dishes there, which are staples, like they seemingly never take them off the menu, and they're actually dishes that they used to have at Deseo back in the day. So they've kind of carried it forward, and then it's funny because the other restaurants, they have similar renditions of the same dishes, but they're all different. But at Enoteca, my favorite dishes are, so they have this ricotta gnocchi. It's like little pillowy, fluffy potato pastas.
Yeah.
Shiitake mushrooms, bacon, black truffle, black garlic, and then you mix it all up, and it's like next level. They have this fried buttermilk chicken.
Wow.
It's boneless fried chicken, basically, with black garlic ranch and creme fraiche, and they put chives on top. And
wow,
that is, oh man, unreal. And then mac and cheese. So they do a smoked paprika, manchego cheese, cavatelli pasta. It's like those spiral noodles. And then you can add chorizo, crumbled sausage on top. And it's
wow, it sounds good.
This.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Yeah. They have other amazing things on the menu, including their wine list. Their wine list is like, we've often gone there and had wine, and then we're like taking pictures of it and like, we got to find this wine. So good. And they recently just did a renovation in inside, and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's a small little restaurant, like not a lot of seats, so you do have to make reservations in advance, but it's so worth it. And yeah, it's unreal. But that's
awesome.
It for this week.
That is awesome.
All right. Thanks everybody for checking it out and watching to the end. And Denise and I will see you guys on the next one.
Awesome. Take care.
Take care. Peace out.